This is the Unspoken Podcast on the Undetermined Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Unspoken Podcast, Cheap Seat Sports Production, part of the Undetermined Podcast Network. Episode 36, it's part one of your double Unspoken bonanza for the week.
That's right. The calendar's not wrong and you haven't traveled through time.
So we're already 2 weeks into the NFL season, and Nick, I don't know about you. Actually, we have two Nicks here, Nick Fodera and Nick Morgasen. Nick and Nick, I don't know about you guys, but I'm already focusing more on my fantasy teams than the Giants at this point.
I actually had a really good week in fantasy. I actually play, and no, this is not a sponsored advertisement for a company, but I've been doing DraftKings and actually been playing like those head-to-head matchups, and I won like 6 out of my 10 matchups this past week. So I took back some.
I'll do you one better. It's not, what's it called? It's not DraftKings or anything, but still, I'm in 9 leagues. I won in 8 of them.
Not bad, not bad. But the weird thing, and we need to talk about this game because I think Aaron Rodgers is starting to be a fluke, but that's a whole other issue we could talk about another day. But they lost the game, but because of Aaron Rodgers and Ty Montgomery, I won all my head-to-head matchups.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite the interesting first 2 weeks in the NFL season thus far. I mean, we talked about the last time we were on, it was the day after the rise of Kareem Hunt and how the Chiefs upset the Patriots. But even since then, it's been quite the time. We've had injuries all over the NFL, including one David Johnson, which has wrecked many of fantasy teams.
Well, he was a number 1 overall pick from most fantasy leagues this year, so that's why it's such a major injury.
Right. And, well, it's also a major injury to the Cardinals team. I mean, there goes your star running back.
Well, they had a crappy team to begin with, including their quarterback. Oh, did I say that? But besides that, I think David Johnson's really their only star, and Carson Palmer's probably going to retire after this year. But who knows? They'll pay him another $15 million, and he'll stick around and just be a crappy quarterback.
And, well, I'm glad your fantasy teams are doing well, but I'm myself as a Giants fan, I'm this close to a coronary, so I'm glad fantasy's doing well, though.
Hey, feel good for one thing, though, because all of New York in the football term of teams stinks right now. So it's not just the Giants.
You know, it doesn't make me feel better because it's a law of the universe that the Jets suck. So that's a given. It is constant as the principle of gravity.
Well, I was going to say that we already knew the Jets were going to be an abomination to begin with, but no one thought the Giants were going to have such major issues, and I guess we'll get right into it, with how Eric Flowers, who was their number 1 pick this year, is just an abomination from the left tackle position. And it seems like this is a major issue in general with left tackles and the offensive line across all of the NFL.
Also, I do have to correct you. I think it was Evan Ingram who was their number 1 overall, or who was their first-round pick this year. I think Flowers was 2nd or 3rd.
Flowers was 3 years ago.
Oh, you're talking about 3 years ago. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think 3 years ago he was a number 1 pick. He's just an abomination at the left tackle position.
I thought you meant this season for some.
Oh no.
Yeah. Although it's kind of hard to goddamn tell sometimes.
Right.
Well, with the way the trades are made in the NFL, and this is why I think it's a joke to make trades in the NFL, because you could trade a star and you're going to get like a 6th or 7th round pick back in return. You're going to get garbage, basically.
You can never tell.
All of the problems that have transpired in these 2 weeks, in which they've lost twice and lost in very, very convincing fashion.
Very embarrassing fashions.
They've all come from the offensive line.
You're right.
The offensive line is a version of the tavern doors in an old Western.
No, you're right.
Open and walk right in.
And you know what makes it worse? So they lost to the Cowboys 16-3 in the opening week. This past week, the Cowboys lost to the goddamn Broncos.
But you know what? I don't think the Broncos are as bad as you make them out to be. I know Trevor Siemian's not your typical quarterback. They went from Peyton Manning to Trevor Siemian.
I know. I get it. Well, they do have Von Miller on their defense. It's a good defensive team, but I would have expected, defense versus defense. Meanwhile, the Broncos scored 21 points on them?
Try 42.
Oh, that's right.
But to make my point about the offensive line issues that are going on, not just with the Giants, but around the league. But if you watch that Monday night game, Eli had no time to throw that football. He was under so much pressure with the offensive line that by the time he was throwing the football, he was already being tackled down, sacked.
Right.
So it's not Eli, even though Ben McAdoo, who I think is one of the worst coaches in all of NFL history.
Fuck him for what he thinks about Eli. I'm so sick of this Eli bullshit. The fault here lies all within the offensive line. I think this is something Nick and I have talked about when the draft originally happened. I cannot believe at that first round, as much as I like Evan Ingram, they butchered it. They did not do enough in that last draft to help their offensive line.
There's one thing that I can't stand, though. There's one thing I can't stand, and I totally blame Eli for this, and this is the one thing I give McAdoo for going after Eli about. How do you fuck up the snap count?
I don't know. I mean, the Giants had The Giants seem to have issues with numbers. 2 years ago, they couldn't figure out how to tell time.
Well, yeah, I remember that, actually. But how do you mess up a hard count and then you don't get the ball off on 4th and 2 or whatever it was?
I have no clue. I'll go after him for that.
It's an ever-expanding snowball of problems. It is. It's not that one thing goes wrong. 15 small things go wrong, and they all pile up.
And also, this whole Brandon Marshall thing, I lost the ball in the lights. Yeah, you lost the ball in the lights. You couldn't catch the ball when you were with the Jets. You can't catch the ball with the Giants. You're turning into a TO where Terrell Owens led the league the last couple of years in drops.
And here's the thing. It's like, I have heard Giants fans sometimes try, like those Giants fans who want to try to defend everything, saying it's hard with Odell. What's he saying of one man doesn't make a team?
Oh, bull crap. Everyone knows that there's one big star on a team that makes the team go round. And if that star is not playing well, like Odell Beckham, who I think only had 4 attempts thrown at him the whole game.
Yeah, he only had 4 receptions thrown at him.
Something
you're not going to win.
Like 20 yards.
Right, you're not going to win if he's not playing well.
Which is fair, but at the same time, everybody's got to step up.
Agreed. But at the same time, if ODB's not going to play well, then you're just going to double team and triple team everybody else on the field.
Which
I don't. I must.
And here's the thing. Sorry to interrupt you, Nick.
Go. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I was just saying before, I don't think they did enough, in the last draft to help their offensive line. And I was saying, I think we were talking, Nick, months ago when the draft was going on, because we were live tweeting. We wanted an offensive lineman in that first round when we got Evan Ingram. And yet the funny thing is, which guy has been, in terms of receptions and stuff, has been producing for these past 2 games? Evan fucking Ingram. They haven't been able to – so the Giants have not been helping their case at all.
Well, also, and if you want to go a step further, the Giants have no running game. Vereen's a joke. I mean, they have nothing.
They put so much
running back.
Well, they put so much now on their freaking Paul Perkins.
Oh, yeah, because Paul Perkins is going to lead this team in rushing.
Well, you're setting yourself up for disappointment by relying on him.
Right. I was going to say, you're running game. What is he? What is he, second year player, third year player?
Something like that, yeah.
Second year.
No, but I'm saying that's what you get for putting someone who's a little greener than most of the NFL talents.
Exactly. And you know what? I can't see how long of a leash are we going to give Eric Flowers before they cut his ass? I
think they should cut him now, to be honest with you.
I think he needs to go, and I think Bobby Hart needs to go.
They both need to go.
Right.
Because this situation with this team is right now they're 0-2. You have to look at the season in fourths. So if you go 0-3, 0-4, that's 1/4 of the season. If you're 0-3, 0-4, you're not winning. Now, I looked at a statistic.
Right.
And they were talking about it on ESPN.com and ESPN. When you're 0-2, you're a 12% chance to make the playoffs.
They were talking about it all week on every single channel, on every single commentary team. They were talking about that all week, about the 0-2 thing. And yeah, for you big Giants fans, you can say, oh, we did it in 2007. That 2007 team and this team are two completely different universes.
They're not even close. The Super Bowl team had way better players. Their defense was up to snuff. They had an O-line that was protecting Eli. There's no O-line, and that's going to kill this team.
It is. It has for the past couple of seasons, and it's going to do that this year. Oh, by the way, as we were talking about Ben McAdoo, and he's talking about, criticizing Eli and stuff, I'm already going to say this. Yeah, but don't you fucking dare take him out, because we all know once if Eli gets subbed out, who's going in. And I have absolutely no fucking faith in that other individual who I will not name unless you two want to name him.
Well,
Geno Smith.
Hey,
Geno Smith.
Hey, I had to put up with him as a Jet fan. I don't know what you're fucking complaining about.
Exactly. I mean, look, he is going to get hurt if he keeps taking this kind of punishment. And I how many times does a brick need to hit you in the face before you realize, hey, I think I should step out of the way? But no, Ben McAdoo with his slick back hair, which he kind of looks like a prepubescent 14-year-old who just discovered the wonders of Axe. No. You, I can't even put into words. I can't even properly articulate my feelings towards this team, because it's just one syllable.
The way I would put the New York football this year is that, and everyone would say, "Oh, it's the Giants. They're 0-2. They're somehow going to win." And I'm like, "All right, the embarrassment of Monday Night Football, Eli." And as much as I blame the O-line, Eli was making the first two games is not hitting his targets. He's throwing footballs over people's heads. He can't get the handoffs off right. He's getting sacked.
Yeah, but the sacked part, again, I'm not necessarily going to blame all of that on him. I'm also going to blame the freaking offensive line. Yeah,
but wait a second.
You think Smith would do better?
No, I'm not. First of all, I'm not saying to replace Eli. Second, I'm saying that Eli has like cement feet. He doesn't want to move out of the pocket. Get out of the damn pocket if the O-line's not protecting you.
And the running backs only move in one direction.
That's true. You're right.
Running backs always. It happened last year, which pissed me off with oh God, what's their name? Shane Vereen and Rashad Jennings, and now it's happening this year with Vereen and Perkins.
They have no running game. I told you that. Their running game is hurting them. So what they're doing is they're all teams. When they're watching the video, say, "Oh, they don't have a threatening running game. We're going to double team all the wide receivers and force them to run the football." Plain and simple.
Which is easy for them to exploit.
Right.
So if we take a look, and Nick, you said you judge this season in fourths. So let's take a look at the schedule for a second. And the next two games that they play, they're going to be away. So they're going to play the Eagles this Sunday
on the road,
1:00 game, and they're going to play the Bucs on October 1st, and that's a 4:05 start. So, based on the schedule for these next two games, do they go 0-4? That's the question I put to you.
Oh, that's
no, 1-3.
Wait a minute. You're saying they're going to win the Eagles game, right?
I don't know which one they're going to win. They're
not beating the Bucs.
Here's the thing: if that's the case, then I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all the Giants fans. I'm sorry to you, Nick. Yes, they're going to go 0-4. I don't see it.
They might have a puncher's chance against the Eagles, But we all know how they just conveniently forget to play football every time they play the Eagles.
Well, they also like to, as we all know, because they did it last year with the Browns and everybody, they also like to play down to their opponent's level.
Well, wait a minute. So here's the problem. They don't have a choice. They need to win against the Eagles because they've already lost a divisional game against the Cowboys. So if they lose 2 divisional games back to back, they're done right there.
I actually am not going to argue that because as I said during our NFL previews, Nick Fodera, you might remember this. If you want me to be honest, I don't like even if the Giants somehow made this miracle come back and go 10-6 like they did last year. I'm not sure if a 10-6 season is even going to be enough for the playoffs with how the NFC is stacked this year.
I agree.
10-6 is not going to be enough for the Giants, especially if they play this level.
Let's take a look at their schedule. So besides you saying the Eagles and the Bucs, to be honest with you, I think they're going to go 0-4 because I think the Eagles are actually playing quite decent. And I just think they have more offensive weapons that the Giants defense can't stand. So I think they're going to go 0-4. Now, the first game I think they're going to win is probably against the Chargers because the Chargers are an abomination. So if they can't go into L.A. and beat the Chargers, then you might as well just pack up and walk away.
All right, I'm going to make a claim right now. All right, ready? If week 5 they lose to the Chargers and go 0-5,
they're done.
Ben McAdoo needs to be fired at the end of the season.
Who, McAdoo?
I wouldn't even.
McAdoo's got to go. If they go 0-5, McAdoo's got to go.
It's not going to happen
until the end of the season.
It's not going to happen. I'll tell you why. Because Jerry Reese. How long did it take Jerry Reese to fire Coughlin?
A couple of seasons.
Well, Coughlin didn't get fired. Coughlin resigned.
But how many crappy seasons did Coughlin have? And the rumors and threats of him getting fired never happened.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. There's a difference between Tom Coughlin, who's won Super Bowls before, actually he has a good head coach, and Ben McAdoo, who, let's face it, is playing the role of a head coach.
Yeah, he's a nobody. He's never coached before. You're right. But I don't know. McAdoo kind of got the reins of a bad situation. It's kind of like going to a crappy team and hiring a young manager like Andy Green for the Padres or Kevin Cash when he took over the Rays. So it's kind of situations like that where you don't have much. You're going to have more free reign in that sense because you know your team is bad.
But he doesn't. That's the thing. He doesn't have. Well, he really doesn't have the kind of. You know what? I don't even know if he'd be able, if he was given, complete control over this team. I don't know if he wouldn't shoot himself in the foot. We need to admit to ourselves that Ben McAdoo is not. He's not head coaching material.
He was an offensive coach. That's where he came from.
I was gonna say last year's success was Eli Odell. Wasn't freaking Ben McAdoo.
Who's Ben McAdoo, for crying out loud?
Who are you? As the Who once sang, "Who are you?
Who are you?"
Who?
Yeah, he pretty much asks himself that question when he looks in the mirror.
Let's look at the rest of the NFL very, very briefly. Just to talk about, how certain teams are starting. Let's see. Carolina actually has surprised me. They're actually, what? Are they 1-1 or 2-0, Carolina? Oh, they're 2-0 already.
Yeah, they're 2-0. And the reason that that's so lucky is because Cam has gone down 2 times in both games. So Cam hasn't learned from his original seasons of getting hurt while trying to get out of the pocket. So until he stops running the football, he's going to get hurt.
Pittsburgh, Le'Veon Bell, what the hell are you doing?
I don't know what's going on with him. They're not giving him the football as much.
I don't know, man. I don't know if they're pissed at him or anything from the holdout, but I don't know. Let's see. Atlanta. I was thinking last week there was a potential that Atlanta could have lost to Green Bay. So,
well, here's the thing with Green Bay, and I mentioned it before. Green Bay looks a little run down. Now, here's their problem. Like the Giants, they're having an O-line problem. So Aaron Rodgers is not being protected enough, and he's being pressured to throw the football, or he's getting sacked. So they got to figure out that situation. Atlanta ran all over them for the most part.
Absolutely. Matt Ryan and Devonta Freeman certainly helped a few of my fantasy teams out this week.
How many points did the Packers score in that game on Sunday?
I could find out for you.
Hang on one second. I got it right here. It was Atlanta 34, Green Bay 23.
The fact that they were able to score 23 points at all with the kind of porous O-line that they had it's really a testament to Aaron Rodgers. You hit him, and he'll still hang points on you.
And yet I think Green Bay is now holding their collective breath with Jordy Nelson.
Randall Cobb, because both of those guys were out at one point. But by the way, I think we need to look at NFL officiating situations because I think they got that call wrong going to the review with a forward pass.
That was not a forward pass.
It definitely was. If you watch the blue line, it was over it.
I'll have to look at that footage again.
But
by the way, and to all of you fantasy owners who are now bugging me for trades for Ty Montgomery and Devontae Adams, here I'm officially flipping you off.
No, Ty Montgomery is the biggest steal of this year's fantasy draft, or fantasy year.
Right. No, but I'm saying Montgomery and Adams, why would I trade them when I know they're about to go off, thanks to the likes of Nelson and Cobb probably going down?
Well, here's the other thing. Aaron Rodgers is a throwing quarterback.
Right.
So, but at the same time, Ty Montgomery is really the only running option they have there. So he's going to get it in the middle of the field at the 50, and he's also going to get it at the 2-yard line twice, where he made 2 tough down-and-in runs to have 2 touchdowns on Thursday night.
You got Miami and the Jets this week. Miami could actually start 2-0.
Which is really it is flipping the bird to both of us for saying that was going to happen. For saying that wasn't going to happen, I should say.
Well, I had predicted they were going to finish 3-13, and 2 of their wins were going to be against the Jets. So at that point, I'd be shocked.
I don't know. We're seeing a lot of interesting things so far. I mean, we saw. Let's look through the first few weeks. New England lost on opening night. So who expected that?
And on a related note, the rise of freaking Kareem Hunt. I know it's only 2 weeks, but man, I have to admit I've been impressed.
Oh, I'm completely impressed. The guy is a down-and-in guy. He's going to get you what you need.
Let's see.
Get you what you need, but it's one thing to have a couple good games in a row. It's another thing to sustain this over an entire season.
Well, yeah, obviously. It's like any season. You could start off, have a good first week of a season, but you got to carry it over.
Right. As I mentioned on my Cheap Seat Sports site when I did the start and sit, I said, anybody who is thinking of playing a Saint, you only better be playing the likes of, freaking Ingram and Drew Brees.
I wouldn't even play Drew Brees. Drew Brees has been an abomination so far.
I guess, but also, I'm just saying, because I said New England is going to be out for blood, and, well, they were out for blood and won 36-20, so.
Yeah, no kidding. They were embarrassed by that loss on opening night, but I actually think that loss was a good thing, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because now there's no pressure of them, we got to go undefeated. We're the best team in the NFL. Now they can just focus on making the playoffs and getting where they got to go.
I don't think anybody was expecting them to be undefeated, but if you didn't think they were going to rebound, you're crazy.
Right.
I mean, did we all think that they were going to?
Well, there were people on Twitter, Nick. There were people on Twitter already complaining after that loss that they wanted Garoppolo in front of Brady.
That's right.
They're spoiled.
No, absolutely. And Tom's correct. I went on Twitter afterwards to see what was going on after this game. Tom Brady is old. He can't play anymore. He should retire. And I'm like, are you kidding me? The NFL is all about up and down trends. You're going to lose a game. Look at when they played the Giants in the Super Bowl. They were undefeated. You're going to lose a game. It happens.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, I love how you made Patriots fans sound like Barney Rubble. That was.
But
you won't tell Fred about this, will you, Wilma?
But on the other side, as I knew that was going to happen, Rob Gronkowski injured. As I knew. Come on, if you actually call Gronkowski to get injured, I'm sorry. He gets injured every year.
Oh, God.
Indianapolis is fucked.
Well, we knew that going into the season, and all these speculations that Andrew Luck is being rumored to want to leave. I wouldn't blame him if he wanted to leave. That team stinks.
Yeah, but still, it fucks up everyone's fantasy teams who had freaking T.Y. Hilton, and everyone and now as hot as we were on freaking Ben McAdoo, there's a lot more heat on Chuck Pagano.
Chuck Pagano should have been fired last year.
Still, I mean, it's beside the point. I mean, Chuck Pagano, he went into that situation. He was expected. He's been expected to win over the past, 2-3 seasons?
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And you're just, I think people in Indianapolis are just tired of waiting for them to put it together.
The only news you've made in the past couple of years is you've had a drunken owner.
Yeah. Well,
Mr. Irsay.
Yeah.
But you really think anybody's going to get mad at Jim Irsay carrying enough pills to bankrupt the Mexican pharmacy?
Wow.
By the way, we're not saying he did that. That's just a joke.
But he did that.
Jesus.
Just saying.
Deshaun Watson, happy birthday, Deshaun Watson. He had a game on it wasn't much of an offensive game. It was a pure defensive game, but of course, Deshaun Watson has the only freaking touchdown run, and it's his 22nd birthday in his first NFL career start.
By the way, the Savage needs to go away.
There's no way. There's no way. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, after this week, again, it's like a Kareem Hunt thing where it's like, one good game, but you know what? Fuck it. Yeah. I want Watson as quarterback permanent.
Savage should have never gotten the start. He should have never started this season. He should have never started last season. He's a joke.
If the front office knows what they're doing, they install Deshaun Watson because, like you said, I mean, I can't. Even Texans fans are getting sick of seeing Tom Savage. I mean, I'm surprised if the Texans play on football. If the Texans play, I'm surprised the TV doesn't automatically try to turn itself off because it doesn't even want to see Tom Savage.
Not even Tom Savage wants to see Tom Savage. He looks in the mirror and screams.
Exactly.
It's his name. He's a savage. We know this by now, okay? Once a savage, always a savage.
And
what has been the most surprising thing that we've seen so far in the young NFL season? I put it to you.
Well, first I was going to say, and Cleveland is 0-2 thus far, but they're playing Indy this week, so expect Cleveland to get their first win this week.
Yeah, but that's not surprising. We knew that.
No, I was going to say that before you posed that question. But I would have to say again, I think opening night was the big shocker.
I agree. And also, you know what the big shocker to me is? I'm looking at the standings, is that Denver, the Broncos, the Chiefs, and the Raiders are all 2-0.
Yeah, I would say the AFC West is kind of surprising.
That surprised me. Looking at the NFC East, the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Redskins are all 1-1, and the Giants are 0-2.
Detroit is 2-0 in the NFC North. I'll give it that one. That also surprises me.
Yes.
Which I'm amazed how good Stafford looked on Monday.
Of course, for that abomination of a contract he just received.
Yeah, we've talked about that one. Let's see.
I have all the standings up, so...
Yeah, I have them in front of me, too. Let's see.
Not surprised with the Falcons and the Panthers, both 2-0. Let's see. Seahawks 1-1, Cardinals 1-1, Rams 1-1. That's not really a shocker. I'm not too shocked by what I've seen. Like you said, the Dolphins have a chance to go 2-0. That might be a shocker.
Right. And yet what's funny is, like, it technically wouldn't be because this week they're playing the Jets. But the fact is, they've lost one of their games already. Well, it's got postponed, rather, because of the hurricane. And then week 2, they opened their year against L.A., so that's kind of a split game. But I'm not sure. I have to look at my predictions. I don't know if that was the game I said, the other game that was, the non-Jets game that I said they were going to win, or if it was something else. But still, that's rather close. Let's really see what Miami has. Let's see week 4 when it plays New Orleans. Imagine if Miami goes 3-0 to start the year.
I think they will, believe it or not.
I'm starting to think that as well.
The Saints, I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints got to like 0-5, 0-6, and then you start hearing the rumors about Drew Brees being traded.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened already.
It kind of has. Mickey Loomis, the GM of the Saints, has already been talking about, do we bring this guy back? And I'm like, no, don't bring this guy back. He's going to be 38.
And we're about to see, I guess on the Saints, we're about to see considering, the Brees situation, AP's now third on the depth chart, we're going to see the rise of, what's his name, Alvin Kamara.
Now we get to see what he's got.
Yep. It's going to be his turn to shine soon. You're listening to the Unspoken Podcast, part of the Undetermined Podcast Network. All right, we go from one hot topic to another hot topic. Oh, boy.
Jemele Hill. Now, if you've been in space or you've been cryogenically frozen.
Or you've been under a rock.
Yeah, or you've been living under a rock. It could be as simple as living under a rock. Context is necessary. So, Jemele Hill, who is the host of
Sports Center.
What's the name of her show?
SC6.
SC6.
Oh, yeah, yes. So Jemele and Michael Hill. So Jemele Hill takes to Twitter last week, or was it last?
No, it was last week.
I think it was September 11th. Monday, September 11th.
I can look that up for you while you're talking about it.
Yes. So she takes to her Twitter account, and she calls Donald Trump a white supremacist, and white tears did flow. And
you can say the other word, by the way.
What?
There was another word in there that you're not saying.
What? What am I missing?
She called him a bigot.
Oh yeah. She did call him a bigot, and white tears did flow, and controversy ensued, where ESPN, basically did the standard apology, non-apology, where they did, we respected Jemele's opinion on her Twitter page. She recognizes that it was the wrong, forum to say that, and then the shitstorm escalated with the president's press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, basically calling for her to be fired. She has not been fired. Now, this has been, Tom and I are both journalism students, and this has been a dominant source topic in basically a lot of all of the classes that we've been taking together. We've had journalism professors of pretty much all stripes at Hofstra basically yakking our ears off about this stuff.
Here's the company line tweet you were talking about. I just found it. So here's what Jemele Hill said, and this is basically a joint statement. You guys, this from being journalism students, that sometimes you have to cut the bullshit as fast as you possibly could, and the company line is going to take it over. Mm-hmm. So she said, "My comments on Twitter expressed are my personal beliefs. My regret is that my comments in the public way I made them painted ESPN in an unfair light. My respect for the company and my colleagues remains unconditional." Now, here's a problem with that statement, okay? So she makes a statement. We just heard Nick say them. And basically, she doesn't give a shit what she says and doesn't realize the political shitstorm that ESPN is already in already because they lean. So you got to think before you make your statements because you're going to get the shit beaten out of you for making a statement.
Yeah, and I don't at all disagree with what she said. However, it's a thorny situation because she does represent a corporate entity. And the fact that she sent it from her own Twitter account, I don't think shields her, or at least as much as it should, from the kind of criticism that she's been getting. However, I do think that ESPN is kind of stuck in that they don't like what she said, because really it's not about black or white with them. The only color that matters with a company that big is green. So they are, rightfully scared about losing money, and they're hemorrhaging money already. But I think they realize that if they fire her, you're going to summon an even bigger shitstorm.
No, you are, because and Tom, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just want to remember a point that basically, if there's another issue, like Nick said, and it's the race issue, which is if I fire a black person, now I'm racist, and I can't do that. So basically, there is kind of a twofold situation.
Right. I was going to say, Nick, now that you brought that up, it kind of dampers my point a little bit, because I was saying the point I think Nick and I, our class, we've been trying to focus on is, and what I think should be the major issue here, is a reporter and pretty much their First Amendment rights when it comes to social media, dealing with their company, etc. How much of a line do you have? How much of a leash should not just ESPN, I'm saying any media organization, should have on their reporters? So I'm just trying to clarify that from the audience. I mean, yeah, we do have the race issue where we've talked about, but the main issue here is not about whether she was right or wrong. The main issue here is how much of a right does a reporter, especially in our case, a sports reporter, have, to talk about other things on their social media accounts, to, say what they truly feel. And I mean, that's been a hot button topic in our law and ethics class, Nick, and yesterday in our sports PR class.
Yes, and a lot of journalism professors, I think, the journalism professors that we have been very, I think, we've been getting two different sides of a story, because you get one professor saying, she was absolutely in the right to do it, and you get another professor who's more well-versed in the legal kind of...
was a lawyer by trade.
Saying that, yes, she can do it, but technically she is, she's an employee of a corporate entity, so therefore...
And a public figure.
Yeah, and a public figure, so therefore watch what you say. However, they pay her, you've said, Tom, they pay her for her opinions, and that's her opinion.
That's what I was saying, before. It's like it's a weird time to be a journalist, because, the black and white basics, neutrality thing, especially in the sports industry, is, it's not there anymore. I think we discussed this, Nick, in our sports writing class last semester. We got taught how to be personality. That's the thing. You need to have a personality. You need to have opinions. And yet it's funny because...
Yet somehow they're telling you to have a personality, yet somehow paradoxically they're telling you to watch what you say.
Right. But I think the issue is every journalist, every radio host, every TV host coming up now is like, I got to be different than everybody else. So if I start spewing shit opinions about people, then I'm going to be my own person. So
it's the controversy creates cash issue.
Right. That's right, Tom. Basically that we have an issue. We're going to make opinions, and then we're going to go viral on social media because we decided to say that Jemele Hill is a racist. Jemele Hill is this. That's going to give us more trending to the top of social media.
It's all about your social footprint, basically.
You're right.
Calling somebody else a racist does not make you a racist, by the way.
No, it doesn't. Absolutely right. And the whole thing I think about the Jemele Hill issue is I feel like SC6 doesn't belong on the Sports Center model. I think they totally fucked that format up. And the reason you haven't seen a ratings book for SC6 is because they're so afraid to show the demographics and the amount of people that are watching it that they're afraid that it's going to get delisted from ESPN.
What's it called? Back to the other issue of, First Amendment rights and the reporter, etc. This is not the first time this year that ESPN has taken action of sorts against one of their employees. Didn't Linda Cohen get suspended for 2 months for criticizing the network for the NBA deal or a college basketball deal?
I think she did.
Linda Cohen got suspended for talking about the network and how she doesn't like the way the political aspect is being handled. So instead of, since she was being so honest and in my opinion, correct, John Skipper came down, who's the president of ESPN, and said, I'm not taking your bullshit. I'm suspending you for a day because you were being too honest.
Which is kind of, because regardless of which one it was, like it was a political thing or what I said about it's deals or both, it's like someone's giving an honest opinion, and it's like, you're being honest, and what's it called? No good deed goes unpunished, so you get suspended.
It's the exact same issue as Linda Cohen got into. However, I do feel that people are kind of. I feel like people are kind of threatened by Jemele Hill because she is an outspoken black woman, and if there's one thing that makes white people hot under the collar, it's outspoken black people.
But the one argument I would make is that this is not the first time she said something ridiculously controversial like this. So I can understand why people are pissed off because she said things like this. But there's one caveat with Twitter, which is when you're on Twitter, people think, oh, you're separate from what you're doing during your workday. That's not true. You represent, like you said, Nick, that if you say something on Twitter, you're technically representing ESPN under that brand partially.
When you're known for being with ESPN. Like, it's weird. It's like different news media outlets have, like, that's because I was referencing this before, different leashes. Like, Nick, our one professor from sports writing, it's like, if you look at his, his Twitter account and you look at the Twitter account of, say, a Jemele Hill or somebody at ESPN,
it's very innocuous.
Right. You'll see differences, basically.
Right. And basically...
But I wouldn't even turn this into a left-wing, right-wing situation because they did this with Curt Schilling. And Curt Schilling is as Republican as the day is long.
Here's the problem.
I really don't think you can put Curt Schilling in this whole left-wing, right-wing situation because the dude was just a nut in general, hating women and hating children.
Yeah. Hating Muslims and hating black people.
Yeah, but wait a second. You can't fire... Here's the problem. You fire Curt Schilling, I understood that, for bringing political bullcrap into the ESPN realm. If you're going to fire him, you got to fire her.
Oh, there is that argument.
How can...
I do believe intention plays a big part here in that he did it so unapologetically and with such vitriol and venom, I should say, that you kind of had no choice.
Yeah, but wait a minute. There's a whole line, and John Skipper's come out and said, he sent a memo out, I think a couple days ago, that said, we're a sports network, not a political network. Well, if that's the case, Curt Schilling got fired for political bullcrap. Jemele Hill went on her Twitter account and did political bullcrap. She should have been fired if that's the case.
So it's not a matter. So even though you don't agree with what she said, I mean, you still think that she should not.
But Nick, I understand where Nick Morgasen is coming from. We have a double standard issue, basically.
Right.
Yeah, we do, and I don't. Like I said, I wholeheartedly agree with and support what she said. It's just. It's a thorny issue because I do see both sides here, but I also see kind of, there is a little bit of, not misogyny, but...
Well, let me throw it at you this way. Forget taking any sides whatsoever. Just look at it as a political issue. Don't take a left, don't take a right, and just look at it from a neutral standpoint. Would you say that it's wrong then, based on what they did with Curt Schilling?
No, because I think intention matters.
What do you now, before?
That's my
more, yeah, explain a little more, Nick, because I'm actually not understanding what you're saying.
So I'm saying,
no, not you, Nick. Fodera.
Oh, okay.
Intention matters in that you would see the memes he would post. It's very hateful shit. It really is.
But I'm not talking about taking a side. That's why I said, don't take a left, don't take a right. Look at it from the standpoint of it's a controversial statement in general. And Curt Schilling got fired for making controversial statements. That's why I'm telling you to look at it just from a controversial standpoint issue. Should she be fired?
I guess she would, but I don't want. Although I don't want her to. It's impossible for me to separate my political beliefs because it's been, you know, it's something that I'm very passionate about. Although I'm not going to parrot them here. That's just the way I feel.
Stupid question. Now, I hate to bring this can of worms into the play, but let's just take a look at another public figure. So let's say, in terms of both, you know, criticizing the network and this Donald Trump situation, what if Michael Kay said something like this on Twitter, or in the case of the Linda Cohen thing, say something like that, or that, you know, criticizing the network for a deal? Would they take action against Michael Kay?
It's different for each person. I'll throw you another name just because. Okay. Stephen A. Smith, okay? You just heard him criticize ESPN's top 100 list for NBA players, okay? He flat out destroyed it. But because he's such a big name, and I'll throw Jemele Hill in there too, because they're big names, they're not going to get fired because of their audience reach that they have.
Yeah, I mean, to them, like I said in the beginning of the thing, it's not a black and white issue; it's a green issue. In that Jemele Hill, she draws a lot of attention. She is very good at her job, and therefore they don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I gotcha. I get it.
Yeah. What's it called? And if we were going to go off of the Linda Cohen thing, if there was, you know, a certain deal and how the network is, you know, treating their employees and their deals. I mean, did you guys hear? I think Nick Fodera, our sports PR professor, posted about this in an article or whatever, that ESPN is looking to, or Disney rather, is looking to like launch streaming platforms.
Yeah, they are. Tom, I heard about this. That
you did too. Okay.
So they're trying to basically take Netflix out of the mix, and they're trying to, and they are. I think in 2020, I think I heard 2019. Or 2019, right? That they're officially launching their own platform. So basically, all the Disney stuff is going to go to one place as opposed to it being on Netflix.
Well, is it going to be all in one place like Disney and ESPN, or is it going to be two different streams of sorts?
I think it's Disney product. That's what I thought I heard.
Okay, because I was like reading the thing, and I'm like, you know, like the ESPN advertisement for it, like the ESPN side of things, like it's going to be NBA basketball, they're going to show college basketball, and I saw NHL. I'm like, wait, they don't have the NHL deal. Here's the article. Okay, so
this is according to The Verge.
Right.
Disney will end its distribution deal with Netflix and launch its own streaming services. The company announced it intends to launch the service in 2019. The move is a real blow to Netflix, which secured a valuable streaming deal with Disney back in 2012 before streaming had really taken off. And the deal only kicked into effect last year, so Netflix is barely seeing any benefit. So basically, it says Netflix won't lose its Disney movies, but Disney says it plans to cut Netflix off, starting with the studio's 2019 films. So basically, they're kind of separating themselves slowly from Netflix. And it says Disney's streaming service will be built off of the technology from BAMTech, which they just bought. So it's kind of like a moving over as opposed to just cutting them off in general.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, for those who criticize ESPN, I am a little critical only because I can see already, you know, like, let's say they do go after the NHL and try to get the deal, for their networks and for this platform. Watch, they're gonna fucking overspend, and then they're gonna go on another firing spree.
Well, I've already had the opinion of that. I think they spent way too much money on the NFL deal, and if you the three of us had to read the book, the ESPN book from James Andrew Miller.
Right. No, they overspend on the NFL. That's my point. They overspend on NBA, overspend on college basketball.
Well, I think the NBA can be justified a little bit. I still think it's overspending, but I think they overspent on the NFL because they only get one game a week. They're not allowed to show highlights from other networks. They spent, I think, $1.9 billion, and they only get one game a week.
And don't they only get like one playoff game?
They get the wild card game.
Right, the crappy wild card game, too.
The crappy wild card game, yeah. Now, I'll give you a comparison. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I did read it, but I think CBS spends about 1.2 or 1.3, and Fox spends like 1.3, 1.4, and they get all of Sunday.
Right. It's unbelievable. So, point here with this and Jemele Hill's situation, ESPN, you're a mess. You're in a bad mess.
I don't know what to tell you.
You're listening to the Unspoken Podcast, by the Unspoken Podcast Network. Hey, let's take something from the Combat Mania side of things. I'm very surprised, Nick Fodera, you wanted to talk about this. So, Canelo Alvarez, Gennady Golovkin, the big boxing middleweight championship match last Saturday night. I actually watched it. It was a great fight, and it ended in a draw. And now, here's the thing. Under normal circumstances, I would be able to take a draw. We had one judge score at 114-114, one judge score at 115-113 in favor of Golovkin, and then the third judge happened.
What the hell happened there?
118-110 Canelo.
You went off, Tom.
I did. I went off. Wait, are you talking about my personal one, or are you
everything? Everything.
Oh my God. Yeah, I was. What the fuck? What the fuck?
It's funny because
from a casual combat fan perspective, Nick and Nick, what do you think? What do you think about this?
I got to ask a question first of all. So the way that the judges score this, usually, and I spoke to Charlie, who everyone knows. He's a big wrestling, UFC, WWE guy.
I need to hear him on this podcast on Combat Mania.
Yeah, and usually when they do the scorings, usually they're within like 2 points, 3 points of each other, right?
It's like the UFC. It's a 10-9 must scoring system.
No. I'm just talking about in general. All the judges are usually within 2 or 3 points on the scoring side. So it doesn't look. It won't look completely ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. It is ridiculous. So as I was saying though about from the combat, like I said on Combat Mania, what I was saying before, the 10-9 must scoring system. Because there's some people probably who don't know what the hell I'm trying to talk about. Okay, so in a boxing match or in a UFC match, every round, at the end of every round, the judges have a certain criteria. Obviously, it's different in boxing and UFC because UFC you can do takedowns, kick, go to the ground. But they have a criteria. And from that criteria, you pick a winner. Winner gets 10 points. Loser of the round gets 9 points. In UFC, it can be less than 9 points if you think the round was, dominant. For boxing, it's 9 points if that loser of the round doesn't get knocked down. 1 point, minus 1 point, so 10-8 if it's one knockdown, 10-7 round if it's a second knockdown in the round. But basically, and at the end, if it goes to a decision, they add everything up. The winner, whoever's the most points is the winner. Nick Fodera is shaking his head. What is it, Nick?
I'm shaking my head because I didn't get to watch the fight. I was essentially cut off from civilization, spending the weekend in rural Pennsylvania, and I knew that once I did manage to get a signal to check my phone, and I found that the fight had ended in a draw. I said to myself, I remember distinctly saying to myself, Tom is going to get so mad because I knew.
Here's the thing. If you guys didn't see the Periscope I had on Combat Mania, I said, if that third judge scored it something like 115-113 Canelo, I wouldn't have been mad. it was a very fair fight. I thought Golovkin had won it, but I would have lived with a close draw like that. Because you know what they were talking about on ESPN, and they're right, and every other boxing network. You know how you invest so much money into a match like this? You know what gets even more money? The rematch.
I think they did it on purpose, I bet.
I don't know. So I should explain something as the MMA guy here. This judge, Adelaide Byrd, is notorious for the most crappy cards, crappy decisions.
Then why did they put her there?
Because for some reason the Nevada State Athletic Commission loves her. And the Nevada State Athletic Commission is one of the worst goddamn commissions there is in boxing mixed martial arts.
You know why they did it, though? They probably did it for attention then.
Well, fortunately, it seems like, by the way, in the last couple of days, some action has been taken. Finally, after all the complaining, after the most, shitstorm boxing has ever received. Now, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, in a couple of weeks, it's going to be UFC 216. Apparently, Judge Berg was supposed to be at UFC 216. She has been removed from the event.
Yeah, because they don't want that event screwed up.
More of a point of them saving face.
Right. No, but I'm saying the Nevada State Athletic Commission is one of the worst athletic commissions there is. So I'll just give you two.
Notoriously corrupt, but
No, but hang on. Let me give my examples. So they had this one guy. His name is Sorry, Nick.
Go.
His name is Wanderlei Silva, big MMA fighter. He runs away from a drug test, but now keep in mind, this is only his first failure, and they want to ban him for life. Meanwhile, another opponent the opponent of the fight who tested positive, I don't know if it was his first or second time, got 3 years.
What about Jones?
There's the John Jones shit. I don't know.
What an idiot, by the way.
Jones is just an idiot. I'm sorry, that's not on the commission or anything. Jones is just...
Wait a minute. So his A sample was positive. All right, I understood that. So he got suspended for a year. But you're an idiot for your B sample being positive.
No, A sample and B sample, there's two. I'll explain this also. There are two samples that you do for a fight. It's like a pre-fight and a post-fight sample. Nick, the ones that you're talking about with the A sample, that was last year at UFC 200 where he tested positive before the fight, but they removed him before the fight. The reason that was pissing off everybody is because it was days before the UFC's biggest event at that time.
That was versus Cormier, right?
That was against Cormier, yes. And now
they already awarded Cormier that belt, right? Well,
you guys are getting your stories confused. Last year they were supposed to have a big unification bout. But a couple of days before, the result came back that he tested positive.
And that ended the fight.
The fight was canceled.
Right.
And he was suspended for a year. Now they had the rematch. They have the big rematch finally at UFC 214 back in July. Jones, and they say nothing before the fight. Jones wins. His A sample, which is his pre-fight sample, comes back positive. And then his post-fight sample comes back positive. So Jones just screwed up his fucking life. Jones's career is probably over.
Did he get a 3-year suspension though?
He's facing up to a 4-year suspension.
Damn.
He probably can't take a leak without getting into a panic attack. There's probably going to be people with butterfly nets standing under his toilet every time he takes a dump. But boxing, combat sports, with the same. We had a couple of weeks ago. We had the McGregor-Mayweather fight, which is, we're not going to rehash, but tremendous waste of time. And now we have this, this Golovkin fight, and I think boxing is in dire need of a good match.
I disagree with you, Nick. I think this has done more help for boxing than ever. This year has been a great year for boxing. As much as Mayweather-McGregor, some people may hate it, it gave attention. This, judge situation, it got attention. But even then, despite the judges' attention, if the judges, if Judge Bird didn't score 118 or 110, we wouldn't be talking about the judge. We would be talking about how excellent that fight was.
That's what I said. I said they probably did it for attention. That's why And that's why I'm not surprised that this has gotten attention because of the scorecard situation.
Right, but even then, I think it would have still been talked about because it's just a great fight. And
who do you think actually won the fight?
I thought I had Golovkin. I had a 116-112 Golovkin.
In that final round?
At the end. At the
at the final round.
I had Golovkin winning 7 or 8 of the rounds.
Gotcha. Okay.
You see, go ahead.
No, but I'm saying, that's the thing. I thought the boxing match was phenomenal. I thought it was one of the best matches this year. Between that and the Anthony Joshua Vladimir Klitschko heavyweight title match, which Klitschko ended up getting finished in the 11th round.
So you're of the opinion that no publicity is bad publicity?
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Here's the other issue. No one's talking about this either. This is kind of a side bout after the fight, if you saw it on SportsCenter.
Teddy Atlas and Stephen A. Smith?
Which I was laughing so hard, by the way. I didn't see it live, but I saw the clip afterwards where Stephen A. is basically saying that he didn't really... Basically, he said the score was the score, I think. Right. And Teddy Atlas almost lost his shit on the SportsCenter set.
Just to see if we can frame this. Stephen A. Smith, who never met a weird, bad opinion he did not want to express, suddenly has nothing to say.
Well, he said that I don't know what exactly he said, but I think it had to do with the commission. Like he was saying that the commission was not flawed, maybe. And
I from what I understood was Teddy was saying he couldn't take it anymore and said, I think there's corruption.
That's it. Stephen A. said, I don't believe in the corruption or whatever. He said that the board basically did what they were supposed to do. And Teddy almost lost his mind. For a guy that old, he's got a lot of energy.
I love Teddy Atlas. He is phenomenal. I love him. But you know what's funny? I could see both arguments because as much as I'm defending boxing and everything, I won't lie and say there isn't corruption. There's always corruption when it comes to combat sports. But on the other hand, as I expressed before, Judge Adelaide Byrd is just a moron. There's a whole page dedicated to, her fuck-ups. So it's like, if there's not corruption, how does she have a license to judge?
I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know.
But you get my point.
I could not tell you.
Yeah, I get your point. Yeah.
I could see it both ways. The problem is just her. So, yeah, fuck you. I'm so happy you're not on the UFC 216 card. There's always certain judges, when you hear their name, they're like, shit.
Let them know how you truly feel, Tom. That's like in every other sport, like for an umpire or a referee. It's like when Joey Crawford, before he retired in the NBA, you hated him because he would give you a technical just for breathing. Or in Major League Baseball, a pitcher moves his leg 2 inches and you have balking Bob Davidson behind the plate.
You know what's funny? They were like... the commentators for that fight were like, what's it called? One of the commentators was like, I trust these judges. Love this person, and Bird. Like, they're not going to screw this up. She's not going to screw it up. I'm just sitting there thinking, he's going to fuck it up.
It happens in something even as esoteric as college hockey. I mean, my father used to play hockey at Geneseo for a little bit, and the people at the game used to shout from the stands, "Get a rope, get a tree, hang the fucking referee."
I mean, we've already seen controversy. Like, going back to, we talked about this weeks ago, but Angel Hernandez and not being happy with the MLB commission. And you know what? All these officials obviously need to shut the fuck up, do their job correctly, and maybe they'll get treated better by their organizations.
It's like, what's it called? Here's the thing. Like, I get the making of mistakes. It's the man-made spectacle, that causes some shit to happen. If without it, we wouldn't have these top 10 lists of, the top 10 blown calls. And yet, at the same point, I feel like, what did you expect when you took an umpire or a referee gig? You're expected to take heat like that. So it just surprises me that, it comes with the territory, basically.
'Tis the human condition. We are built to screw up.
I have never heard anything better. Congratulations, Nick. That might be the quote of the show. You're listening to the Unspoken Podcast, Chief Seat Sports Production, part of the Unspoken Podcast Network. Before we go, just want to briefly, for a few minutes, touch on Bobby the Brain Heenan, the legendary wrestling manager who sadly passed away on Sunday. Bobby the Brain Heenan, as I mentioned on Combat Mania, unfortunately was delivered a bunch of health problems over the last few years, but Bobby the Brain Heenan will always be remembered as one of the biggest personalities in the professional wrestling industry.
And I wasn't even a wrestling guy, and I knew who Bobby the Brain Heenan was. And look at the stable of talent that this guy managed. I mean, Arn Anderson, you had Andre the Giant. These are all Hall of Fame paradigm-shifting wrestlers. They are what made the WWE, well, the WWF at the time, what it is. They made it he helped make it a pop culture phenomenon. And even when he was behind the booth,
right, he was such a colorful person.
Personality.
Yeah, he was such a colorful character. All the people that he has managed, all the feuds with Hulk Hogan between the AWA and the WWF, like that made the AWA and the WWF with the all the feuds with Hogan. He was one of Hogan's biggest enemies. I mean, since he was around all of Hogan's opponents, practically, it's like he was the biggest bad guy, not even the opponents. It was like sometimes Bobby Heenan was, despite being the manager, the big heel of that promotion, the guy who received the most heat from the fans, the most boos. And as you mentioned, Nick, behind the booth, behind the desk with Vince McMahon and probably one of my favorite commentary teams of all time, him and Gorilla Monsoon, absolutely great. All the skits they would do, and all the interaction, the wit they would have with each other, how they bounced off each other, classic good guy and bad guy. And it led to the classic Gorilla Monsoon commentary lines. Like every time Heenan would say something out of line, it's like, "Oh, please," or "Will you stop?" It's honestly, something that is just, it's fun to watch as a wrestling fan. It's like, even, if you weren't a fan of the colorful characters at the time, it's like, those two had such a unique chemistry that they were just enjoyable to watch.
I can't have said it better myself.
It's so sad that, and I mean, he got inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2004. As I said, unfortunately, over the last 5 to 10 years, it's just been health problem after health problem. Between broken bones, he had throat cancer in 2002. So he's been battling cancer for a long time. He didn't sound like himself when I got the Showdown Legend of Wrestling game and he was on commentary. His voice sounded a little different. It's like, as much as it's sad that he's gone, I'm glad he's finally at peace and doesn't have to deal with all this health shit anymore.
Well, we're seeing a lot of those guys starting to pass away, right?
Yeah, although Ric Flair somehow made it out, because I knew that son of a bitch was too tough to bring down.
He was in a coma, right?
Was it medically induced coma?
I think it was a medically induced coma, yeah.
But yeah, it's like it's sad that that's the price that's been coming with the industry with what happened at the time. Because 3 years ago, we lost the Ultimate Warrior. 2 years ago, we lost Dusty Rhodes, Roddy Piper. It's been Macho Man in 2011. It's not been fun.
But a lot of this is I don't know exactly each situation, but a lot of drugs and alcohol and smoking and.
But this is Bobby Heenan. He wasn't an in-ring performer. He was outside, the ring and stuff. Unfortunately, this is just,
pretty much age.
Yeah, age. And he just, what's it called? He got diagnosed with cancer in 2002. This has just been, a brutal battle for him in terms of health.
I mean, that's the tough story of cancer. Once you get it, your body is kind of, it doesn't, you can go into remission, but you're probably going to get it over again, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, cancers, because I've had family, who've been diagnosed with cancer. It's not pretty. It's not a fun sight. And honestly, I'm glad Bobby Heenan, as I said, is finally at peace, but it's a tough loss. We're all going to miss Bobby Heenan.
Right.
Yes, we will.
But I just want to end with one more thing, not with this, but just so we don't finish on a somber note.
Okay.
What do you think about the Thursday game and the Sunday games and the controversy of not picking good games?
I think, well, let's face it, the NFL has a scheduling issue. Oh, by the way, I just got a news alert. Aaron Judge has now become the 7th player in Yankees history to hit 45 home runs in a season.
This guy is going to be a star.
I hope he continues the momentum next year and for years to come. This man better win Rookie of the Year and MVP this season.
I will riot. I will be throwing things that will include bodily fluids if that does not happen.
I guess you're going to lose your shit. No pun intended.
Hey, I didn't say which ones. All right, so they can't get on me that bad.
But basically, look at the two guys that are probably going to win the 2 major awards this year. We're the 2 guys that were being compared to each other. Giancarlo Stanton's probably going to win the MVP. He's going to hit close to 60 home runs.
Right. And Aaron, I think Judge is going to win both Rookie of the Year and MVP.
We'll see, but I think the 2 guys that are being compared to each other, and we're getting sick of being compared to each other.
Right.
But
what's it called? I guess I kind of get if he doesn't win MVP, but he's going to win Rookie of the Year for sure.
Right. But back to the final point, though. We have the Rams at the 49ers, one of the worst games that's going to be on Thursday Night Football.
And I think one of the Rams' best chances this season of winning a game.
Right. And also, in another alert I just got, Didi Gregorius passes Derek Jeter for most single-season home runs ever by a Yankees shortstop with 25.
Very good. Very good. So these Yankees are...
Right. The stats are amazing. We'll see. We're going to get into playoff baseball hopefully in the next week or so. I hope you guys are, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, we're getting to that time.
But the Thursday game is bad, and the Monday game is pretty bad, too, between the Cowboys and the Cardinals.
And the Sunday night game is Oakland and Washington. That's not as bad, but still, in my personal opinion, meh.
Well, Oakland deserves to be on Sunday Night Football.
Finally. Yeah, Oakland's fine. Washington, I don't know what goes into the NFL when it comes to picking games. It's like both for a TV perspective and, a team season perspective. Like I said, I think the Cowboys, despite being the NFC East champs last year, one of the best records in football last year, I think they have one of the easiest schedules this year.
Yeah, they do.
It's pretty bad, the NFL, with its scheduling.
But we will get into that.
And I guess that's going to do it for this edition of the Unspoken Podcast. So go like us on Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, everything at the UDUP. Go like my other show, Combat Mania, at Combat Mania UD, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope. You guys want to plug your social medias? Go ahead.
We do have another podcast coming up. A brand new podcast coming up with a new arrival to the Undetermined Podcast Network. But I will hold off on announcing the full details once we get everything rolling. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, because Nick and I were having that conversation yesterday about what the name was going to be.
Don't spoil it.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that one might be a little too out there. But lots of stuff to come.
You've got pop culture coming, right, Nick?
Yeah, so we've got pop culture coming by the end of the month, and stay tuned because it's going to be a hell of a ride.
I'll tell you right now, we're probably up to about 6 or 7 podcasts now. So just keep it rolling.
Just keep rolling.
We're expanding.
And I haven't used the soundboard today, so guys, what sound should I play to end this off?
The fail horns. Go with the fail horns.
You want to do the fail horns?
Or fake news.
I don't have the fake news one up, so you know what? And considering we did the Jemele Hill situation, I don't know if I want to get into that. So, sure, Price is Right losing horns it is. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Unspoken Podcast. For Nick Fodera, Nick Morgasen, I'm Tom Albano. We'll see you on episode 37. You've been listening to the Unspoken Podcast, a GT Sports production, part of the Undetermined Podcast Network. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.